That's right, that's a good idea.
I think it's more to keep.
Engineering down here, legal down there.
Okay, well, I can hurry up and switch, it's no problem. Switch. You guys don't care. I enjoy sitting beside Mr. Carr.
You're doing okay. 4 minutes.
You got 4 minutes to do whatever you'd like to do.
I'm looking for somebody to move the tags for me. I want to get down on the engineering side.
Oh, God. You know, they should never let two engineers in the same room. Hey, Mr.
We shouldn't be letting all these consultants.
Mr. Parrish, I see there's a lot of equipment out front of your property today. Was that for you?
Yeah, they're starting clearing and grubbing today.
Wait a minute, you've been clearing and grubbing for a year.
That's my clearing and grubbing. This is official clearing and grubbing. Yeah, they called me. It's supposed to start next week on Wednesday. They called me this morning and said, "Can you move your travel trailer? We're starting today." So I had to run over there.
We want to keep the attorneys side by side.
Got it. I'm adjusting I'm going to try.
This is like an aircraft carrier.
So I can no longer camp at my property.
Reading an interesting article, actually, I just finished this morning in Air and Space magazine about the first aircraft carrier. It was 100 years ago, commissioned 100 years ago.
You read that?
Yeah,
It was actually old coal tender. They renamed it the Land.
What deck, easy, whatever.
I heard somebody talk about equipment.
I don't remember the name of the first guy that did it, but they called it as the USS Langley.
DM is out there today clearing and
It's a
grubbing.
historic ship, but it went down in the Coral Sea, so that was into that. Is Kaylee here today?
She is in the office on the phone or on YouTube. She is in.
Oh, she not feeling it?
No. You know they all went to Nashville over the weekend. A bunch of people, so Roger,
What's that?
he's probably going to be out with
I
COVID.
didn't read that.
Rehabilitation instead of reconstruction.
You know, I just make the assumption now that everybody has COVID. I mean, just,
It's just a category. I'm sure they're doing the rework. Are they doing the same work on that, Jim?
were they?
Found the
Switch it, revise from rehabilitation to reconstruction. It's basically.
So anyway, in the USS Langley, they were talking about the first guy to land.
2.6
He was
million.
really, you know, he was the hero. And so later he was just
know,
involuntarily
everything
out there
here was built for
through the process when they were learning land. He watched planes come in and kind of like, no. And that was why they developed the signal guy that helped him come in, is that they realized that they were watching this
Charge the
guy.
heavy-
The pilots were
Well,
watching. That's why they now still today
But-
have a signalman when they're
They
landing.
don't get charged extra.
Well,
This guy was just
they're
like,
paying for it anyway. Ticket taxes are what's paying for these grants.
Landing on a carrier.
but actually,
It's moving.
Be there.
Yeah, well, that's it. We've had rutting problems out there.
you know, I was watching a show on the History Channel, the History Channel.
Yeah, in the front, in the
It's called
front
World War II, high
by the
definition
house,
color or
and
something.
I'll have asphalt.
And they were talking about the Battle of the Philippine Sea, which I'd really never known anything about.
I haven't
It was
either.
very- I mean, I thought I knew everything there was about
That's
Second
why
World
they
War
most of us.
as far as major battles.
Whatever Bobby puts
Pretty damn
down.
interesting.
I've got running in my driveway. That's all
Yes.
A little bit. Not
But the art carrier sent out the planes and knew they
Okay.
couldn't make it back.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting, the January board meeting of Charlotte County Airport Authority to order. Please silence your cell phones. And if you would like to join us for an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance, please stand.
Yes, sir. Shall we pray? Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we take this time to praise your holy name, and we give you all the honor, glory, and praise for all that occurs here at the airport. We just ask now that you grant this board wisdom, guidance, and discernment as we consider our monthly business. Once again, we give you the honor and glory and praise, and we ask for the continued hedge of protection for our airport grounds. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
The actual right piece, the box.
Red light.
Now it's on.
Yeah.
Test, test, is mine on?
Okay, everybody hear me? Good. Okay, Ms. McLaughlin, please do roll call for us.
Sure. Mr. Andrews?
Here?
Mrs. Oliver?
Here.
Mr. Carr?
Present.
Mr. Hansick?
Here?
Mr. Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Hurston?
Present.
Ms. Coppola?
Here.
Okay, we're all here, we have a quorum. I'd like to recognize that we do have our county commissioner, Stephen R. Deutsch, is in the audience, and our representative from the city of Punta Gorda, Mr. Mark Kuharski. Am I saying your name right, Mark?
Yes.
Thank you. I might mention, while we're talking about introducing the councilman from the city of Punta Gorda, they are having a very interesting meeting. They do it every year. It's called Key Punta Gorda. It's on January 27th, where you can find out what's been going on in the last year, what their vision is for the future, and you can find all that information on their website. It might be interesting for those of you who live in Punta Gorda. You might want to attend. With that, I'll ask if there's any citizen input on an agenda item. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, additions to the agenda. We do have an additional agenda item we added to, I believe it's 13E. It's a change order for the existing project we have going on, and we'll deal with that when we get to it. It has to do with taxiway D. Moving on, consent agenda. Two items on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, moving on to the Secretary Treasurer report, Mrs. Coppola.
I will defer to Mr. Parrish, please. Thank you.
Certainly. Do we have the financial review up on the slide? If not, okay. So quickly, the financial, going over it fast, for the month of November, we were up over budget in revenue by about $276,000. Oh, here it is. We were also over budget in expenses, but less than that. So for the month, our operating gain, we budgeted $285,000. We were actually $431,000. So we're up positive $148 over budget. And year to date, we continue to exceed our budget estimates. We're up about $300,000 for the year. Go to the accounts receivables. If you have any specific questions, I can try and answer them, but Allegiant has paid all of that they owed for the 30, 60, and 90. I think below 30 they still have a balance, but we don't consider that since it's still current. Also, Worldwide Flight has paid it, and Gulf Machine Works has paid in full. So we are doing very well in our accounts receivable. Gone through the income statement basically. If there's any specific questions, I can try and answer them, any specific items. And our balance sheet continues to look good, up to a net position of about $128,700,000, of which $37 million is cash.
I might mention, just for those of you watching and listening and those here, it appears that we go through these financial statements relatively quickly, but you need to be aware of the fact that board members get these in advance of the meeting, and they have an opportunity to go over the statements at their leisure at home. So any questions that come up, would be normally answered in advance or at this meeting.
And anyone who gets the email for the meeting also gets copies of it.
Right.
So,
Yeah, all of our agenda items are posted on the webpage, so you can go there, and depending on how interested you are and how far in depth you want to go, everything we get is out there and it's transparent to the public. Okay, moving on liaison reports. I mentioned about Punta Gorda, and that's about all I really have with the city is concerned. So we'll move on with the Board of County Commissioners. Paul?
Commissioner Deutsch, would you, I spoke with Commissioner Deutsch. A few things have happened. One was the emergency we had declared with the tornado. I think he's going to cover that.
We have a short agenda, so I'll talk my usual 45 minutes.
Not as
Good morning,
long as
everyone. I have to share with you, I was sitting back there, and sometimes your mind wanders. And I guess I should, what's that?
Your mind wanders?
On occasion. Well, I multitask. And it was probably 11 and a half, 12 years ago that you and Jim, not this Jim, and no relation, Jim Deutsch, sort of approached me to become the liaison here if and when I were to get elected. And I would say that, I'll just make it very brief, but I'd like to think that the relationship between the county now and the airport authority is so far beyond what it was 12 years ago. It's like night and day. And I can remember sitting in the kitchen across the street when you guys had your meeting, and before we had the screens, and a lot of things changed. But I think in the 11 plus years, I think I may have missed 2 meetings. So my attendance is probably right up there with you guys. And I think we've got a great cooperative working relationship, all the way from the silly things like getting dirt and drainage and problems with signage and stuff years ago to cooperating on economic development again. And so thank you for putting me into something I knew nothing about, you and Jim, but I've enjoyed it. It's been exciting, and I think it's better for the county. We've got such a great working relationship, so I thank you all for that. And over the years, obviously, I'd like to think I made some friends here. I think we all know about the storm. It was pretty severe. They're now saying it was probably 2, and basically it ran from roughly, the length of the storm ran from about where you went over the Coral Creek Bridge, where you go from Pasita to Gasparilla, all the way up to Marathon, where the traffic light is. Roughly, that's the path it took. They're saying the winds were 110 miles an hour. The amazing thing, and I mentioned this, and you guys are involved in this too, most people don't know, we do hurricane prep and emergency prep 24/7, all the time. And I think it's amazing how well prepared we are when we have an emergency. And unfortunately, it happens from time to time, and I don't want to guess at what could possibly happen in the future, whether it's a sinkhole in the middle of 41 or the bridge collapse, or who knows. But the amazing thing is how quickly we respond, the high level of interdepartmental cooperation is absolutely amazing. We had, I think the first truck was down at the site within 10 minutes of the storm going through. And we had water and food to the site being delivered there before lunchtime. We had our building officials out, we had community development out. Bill lived across the street, and he went, over in Rotunda, and Truex was there, and and it's amazing the response that we had, and the neighbors and everybody pitched in. But we're certainly a community, and as we think back to Charlie, that we know how to pull together and work together. So that's one issue. The other is, I think everyone in the county should know by now that we had the ribbon cutting for the Military Services Memorial, and some of you were there, and I thank you for coming. And I made a point of trying to embarrass Jim Hurston, because you guys know Jim, but he's donated an awful lot of time to helping the park work and get to this point. So he was one of 2 people we invited up. But I want to extend an invitation to you guys now. On February, I know you're already coming, on February 16th, which is a Wednesday, at 11 a.m., we're going to have the Military Service Memorial ribbon cutting. You're all invited at 11 o'clock. We will feed you afterwards. You're our guests. And if you think we had an impressive program for the first responders, wait till you see what we do for the military service memorial. So, and the counties, we've got, obviously an awful lot of things going. We went through the impact thing in December. We have an incredible amount of land use issues coming in that we're dealing with. Everybody wants to develop, or at least put the paperwork in, if not necessarily build. But we had a very brief last meeting because everyone was up in Tallahassee for the legislative week up there. I've been watching the store all week, so I guess you can blame me for any problems we've had. But we're there, we're willing, and certainly we look forward to anything you guys need in any way. And Jim knows this. And I can't officially say what I whispered in your ear, but as soon as I can, Jim, I'll come and let you say it about the trucks, which we're not going to talk about now. So thank you much. If you guys need anything, give us a shout out. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I just want to say they gave me a phone call to my house to take cover and be careful and all that. I thought that was pretty interesting. That's the first time that's ever happened. And is that from the county also, the phone call that they, I got a phone call about warning.
Tornado warning?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was great.
That's automatic. Mine was deep with a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that was really, I appreciated that.
Okay, continuing on with the agenda, the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, Mr. Hurston.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I reported last month, but I do have a joint meeting with Sarasota Manatee MPO on this coming Monday, next Monday at 11 a.m. up in Venice. Looking forward to that. And with respect to MPOAC, I have a meeting next Thursday in Orlando. And so I'll report on that next meeting, and also be able to report on, I think on February 18th, we have a joint meeting with Lee County.
I think the September meeting may not take place. I'm not the September, the Sarasota meeting.
Yeah, right. I know they didn't have a place, but thank you, Commissioner Deutsch. But with that being said, I'll report next month on the MPO, MPOAC, and economic development. I can just say it's red hot out there. I'm having clients show up from people that are selling out in Manhattan, commercial developers. I've got some guys coming in from Israel. I mean, there's it's just
Wow,
phenomenal.
booming, huh?
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. I mean, they're as busy as we are. I mean, it's as busy out there as we are here at the airport. But,
Well, it's a good place to do business.
yeah, as Commissioner Deutsch knows, by the number of building permits that are in the process. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's it.
Okay, Mrs. Coppola, community involvement.
Okay, I'd like to mention the Women's Club. They're holding an annual rummage sale on 2 weekends, January 21st and 22nd, and 28th and 29th. One is for household, one is for clothing and jewelry. This is a great organization. I just joined it recently, and last year they gave out, they raised this money for scholarships for our local high schools. And last year they gave out 2 scholarships. One was to a young man going to the Embry-Riddle, and a young lady to a nursing school. Also, if anybody wants to bring in any coupons, they are able to change those into money also for this cause. They're a really good group of women. I've been to the Liberty Caucus. I believe Commissioner Deutsch was our speaker the one evening. Trump Club, there was a speaker there, Kevin Kalin, who I think is running for Punta Gorda seat on the county commission. Went to a farewell gathering for Ron Mallard, and we will miss him and wish him a great and wonderful future and a great retirement and many travels. He sounds like he has it all planned out. Sounds good. And Amy, our wonderful executive liaison here, is leaving also to go to Tennessee. Is that correct? Yeah, we're going to miss you. And you want to introduce your replacement?
So this is Kelly McLaughlin. I'm sure most of you have met her already. For those people out in the audience that haven't, she's going to be taking over after tomorrow, actually. But I know she'll take care of you guys. That's
Yeah.
what's important.
Well, she had a good training, good teaching. Yeah, you have been super, terrific, absolutely. I think that's about it.
Okay,
I do believe.
we'll move on to state legislation. Mrs. Oliver has joined us via the telephone, so Mrs. Oliver, you're on.
Hi, yes, thank you all. On February 2nd, I, along with Jerry Paul, and I believe Mr. Parrish, are going to be going up to Tallahassee to advocate on behalf of our appropriations request, our joint request with the school board for the air program. The kids are in the house with me. You can tell it's chaos. So we'll be traveling up there to meet with the officials to discuss our appropriations request and hopefully get their buy-in as well.
Okay, you, James, you want to?
Ms. Oliver, you mind if I just go over some of the priorities from FAC?
Go right ahead.
So we passed out the handout that we're using this year when we meet with the legislators. Have a few priorities. One, I'll bring your attention to aviation fuel taxes. Over the last few years, the airlines have made a very successful run at reducing or eliminating the aviation fuel tax. It's about $30 million a year to airports. The nice thing about the fuel tax, it is what started the Aviation Trust Fund in Florida. It's what started the real growth of aviation in Florida over 52 years ago. And we have always, as a group, opposed eliminating it. The special thing about that tax is the FAA requires any tax collected at the airport to be spent at airports. So it can't be moved into the general fund. I don't think we're going to be successful at keeping the tax forever, and so we may be changing tact on that one, changing course, and looking at a way to just have a hold harmless put in the bill that if the tax goes away, the funding will remain. And so we're having another meeting on that to discuss with other airports to see how that goes. Everything else seems to be going pretty good. We have all of the legislation we support is in progress, and somebody is carrying it both in the House and the Senate. So I will bring anything to you that is a problem that you know if I think it's time for all of us to start making calls. The one thing there's a Senate and a House bill that would limit not only the amount we can charge Uber and Lyft, but also where they park. And they cite one airport moved to them 3 times in 3 years. Well, that is true for us too. And it's because we're constantly growing, we're constantly changing, and the location that we have Uber and Lyft moves. I don't see where that's a problem, but apparently it has been in some airports. So they're trying to legislatively require us leave them in one place. And I just don't think that is something that we can guarantee we can do. So we're opposing that bill. It was brought up by a state legislator that is upset that his airport raised their fees from $1 to $3, which everybody in the state is at $3. So he was just kind of getting his in line with the norm. His was one of the original contracts. So, but in his mind, it's a 300% increase. So,
Okay, Mr. Parrish, I do have a question. Are there any of the legislative issues that you and/or FAC feel that we should have a formal resolution from this board? Because I know things move quickly up in Tallahassee. If we need to do something, let us know. And
I will.
We can call a meeting real quick to do something.
And I think the one maybe, my issue with the first item on here is not only does it limit what we can do, it also is the first time ever that the legislature will tell us what we can charge somebody.
And that's a dangerous
It's just
precedent.
getting that,
Yes.
starting that is a scary.
Well, please let me know
We will.
if you guys need something, because, you know, sometimes a little horsepower from the political types help back up the administrative types. So,
All right, thank you.
okay.
James, just out of curiosity, what do you think the chances are of removing the sales tax on the aircraft?
There is actually a bill this year, and that's kind of been our problem. We have been supporting the elimination of sales tax. And I'll kind of give you the background. Right now, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina do not charge sales tax on the sales of aircraft. So if I'm buying a plane and then I'm going to have the interior redone and the avionics redone, I just fly it to Atlanta, South Carolina, Alabama, make the sale, and then a shop there does all the work. We're losing out on the work after the sale in Florida. So that's what we're trying to avoid. But it does make us look a little schizophrenic when we want to eliminate one tax but keep another tax. So.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to our attorney's report. Mr. Carr.
I'm pleased to report that due to the holidays, it's rather a calm month. There's a lot of work going on with leases. I speak with Ms. Pettigrew quite a bit. We have a number of them in discussion, detail, working out. I think we're going to resolve any concerns that we have as to getting those leases completed. So that'd be good. Our general golf contours continues to be an issue. I wrote to them in December, said, your first quarter's up, please tell me your plan. That's what their agreement says they're supposed to do. I heard nothing. I reported that to the board. I followed up, and I got an email from him that says exactly what he told the board when we did this, that he had spoken with 3 brokers, and he can't find anything suitable. That was it. And I asked him about the fire damage. He said they were working on getting a contract. That was a month ago. I followed up yesterday, got no response, asked Lisa to go down and take photographs. She wisely sent somebody else to take photographs. I have documented the photographs, documented the file that as of yesterday, the fire damage remains exactly as it was a year ago, no changes or modifications. Fortunately, he is current on his lease. In the sense of his payments, he is current with regard to the taxes. However, the issues that we've asked him to confirm with us as to vacating the property and putting it back into its prior condition have not been addressed.
I'd like to remind everybody that the board, I thought, was very generous in extending his lease for 1 year to accommodate fixing the building and the sale of his building, and it's unfortunate that he's not complying with his half of the deal. So
And not to correct you, but I want to make sure that everybody's aware that we did not extend his lease. We abated the eviction of him or removal from the property for 1 year pending his compliance, which he has never once been in compliance since we did that.
Well, that's why I was short 1 quarter becoming an attorney.
There you go. Just a quarter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, boy, here we go. Mrs. Coppola.
For the attorney, has he documented anything of his trying to find new places to move to with you in writing?
No, ma'am, his email back to me said exactly what he told the board. I've looked at 3 buildings, and none of them are suitable. I've spoken to 2 brokers, all of which he reported to the board before we entered into the abatement agreement, and nothing suitable. And he's seriously contemplating a merger, which is exactly what he told the board before we entered into the abatement agreement. So to my knowledge, he has not reported to me that he has seen anything or done anything since we signed the abatement.
No names or dates?
No names, dates, times, places, etc.
Do we need to put that in writing to him, that we need, or not, or is that?
I communicate with him
against the law?
exclusively in writing. Most of the time he doesn't respond, but I communicate with him mostly in writing. But so the board's aware that we are now 4 months into this process of this 1 year abatement. He remains in default of the abatement agreement. It's to the board's pleasure whether we continue to nurse this along or take action. I'm not asking for any movement. I'm just continuing to apprise you of the status.
Thank you.
Are you complete? You done?
I am, sir, thank you.
Okay. Item 11 on our agenda is the CEO report. We'll start with Mr. Parrish and development update.
Sure. You guys have a fairly verbose development update. I will give you the cliff notes. In development is the spec building RFQ and the self-serve at the General Aviation facility. I think we're real close on the self-serve and the spec building, getting those out on the street. The rental car planning studies, the rental car study is kind of being looked at the same time. What we have done as with the terminal planning study that AECOM is currently working on. AECOM was here last week, earlier this week, meeting with all the users in the terminal as well as rental car companies and ground handling. Taxiway Delta rehab, we do have a change to the scope, which we'll bring up later. But that is under design. The 50 by 50 hangars should be completed this month, and we will be negotiating a change order with Stellar to build 5, potentially 9 units. The inline baggage system, which is a long process, is in the works, and the FBO hangar, we should have a guaranteed maximum price by April's meeting, so we can approve that to move forward. And we are just holding on the curbside improvements and the additional lane in and out until we see the grant from the DOT that we have gotten word that we're going to get. So we just don't want to start and jeopardize any grant funds that could come with that. And we want to do the project during the slow time, so it wouldn't start until March, the end of April, probably anyway. Under construction, runway 422 and the wetlands are under construction. The runway's been closed since the 11th, and they have completed the majority of the removal of asphalt as well as base material, and they're moving forward. And the wetland project is moving forward. We have to purchase a few more mitigation credits. The replacement hangar for 207 and the new 600s is currently in design with the contractor. It's a design build base. We give them the specs and they do the design with the metal building contractor. So that is underway. The contracts have been signed. We're actually doing the purchasing on those buildings to save the sales tax and also kind of reduce some of the contractors' increased cost. General Aviation Taxiway and the General Aviation Center parking lot are all under construction. They're should be completed by the end of March. If you've been out there, you'll note that we have connected the taxiway to the end of 927, which has been a long-awaited project. We are almost done with the first lift of asphalt on the entire project, and they are drywalling the General Aviation Center, so it's dried in, if not completely, shortly, and we're moving forward. So it's exciting. A lot of things happening. In that vein, we're probably looking at adding another person in our engineering department. We are getting a little overloaded there.
Yeah, that's quite. Any surprises on runway 422 since we're digging it up?
We haven't found anything in the base that we didn't expect to find, so thank goodness.
Yeah.
No antique aircraft, anything?
No antique aircraft, no munitions.
Well, you never know when you get into something like
You
that.
do never know when you dig up something from 40s.
Okay, good. And I'm glad to hear, I've been talking from time to time with Ron, and he is overloaded, so.
Oh, Ron always has said that. I've worked with Ron since ’95, and he always
He
says
always
he's
says that,
overloaded.
but
So.
he probably needs some.
We can throw a few more things on him.
He's only 33, you know.
Okay. Ms. Miller, is she on the phone, or
Ms. Miller is,
are you gonna handle
she
that?
is convalescing herself. She's in the office wearing a mask, not breathing, so she doesn't make anybody sick. We may have to send her home. But you can read her marketing
report.
update. I wish I could tell you what a lot of this means, but we are continuing with our newsletter, which gets a lot of exposure. Our website, 165,000 views in December. So people are going to the website to get information. We got a lot of good news coverage. We got a lot of bad news coverage. When the two Allegiant planes during pushback touched each other, that kept popping up in my news feed it still pops up in my news feed. The AVX website's getting a little bit of use. People are seeing it. We're getting some phone calls on it, so that is doing its job. I think by this time next year, we will be out of property in that area. So that is a good thing, and we're excited about that. Facebook, I guess when Ray's picture is on Facebook, we get a lot of likes.
Get a lot of likes.
I don't know. And
James, we should just note that nobody from Charlotte County Airport Authority was involved with the Allegiant mishap, that was an independent contractor
Absolutely.
and not our employees, and nothing that we did, nor do we have any liability or responsibility for what occurred.
yeah, so, yes.
I checked on that immediately.
Yes, that was a text to me within seconds. So the Junctions Bar has opened. I hope everybody's flown out of here and their flight was delayed and they got to use the bar, which is when we get the most use in the bar. And we've had a lot of good feedback on that. It's a nice amenity to have.
Okay.
So that is it for that. You want to go to the aviation report?
Yeah.
Mr.
Mr.
Duncan?
Duncan?
Good morning, aviation report. So total passengers for calendar year have been completed, and glad to report that it came in at 1,569,836 total passengers. It's just slightly less than our calendar year 2018. But what's interesting to note are June, July, October, November, and December were our busiest months as compared to any other year. So we're excited to see that trend continue. And based on what we've seen through January, it's likely that will continue. On our fuel sales, on avgas, we were up in December over previous December, as well as previous November. For Jet A, gallons sold, 76,000, up over the previous December, just slightly lower than November. And for airline gallons pumped, we're up 1.3 million over previous December, as well as previous November and October. So that just goes to show that both Allegiant and Sun Country business. I'd like to congratulate staff. You may remember when their air traffic control tower was built, it came with uplighting that they would turn on at night. And shortly after that was commissioned, that area took a pretty severe lightning strike, and it damaged a lot of the equipment over there, including the uplighting. So Ray and his staff and procurement, they've been working on trying to get somebody to come out here and finally fix it, which they did. So if you're out driving on 75, you look over to the tower, you'll see that the light's changing nightly. So good work, Ray. That's it for my report.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on. I don't remember this one on an agenda before. COVID test site.
So we are working on an agreement with the county to put a testing site out in the field near Cheney Brothers. Working on an agreement to have it open daily from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. and they would manage it. They would do everything, just need a location. And I think it's a good community thing to do. It would be timed. They would have to have appointments, so we're not going to look at a lot of traffic.
In respect to that, how would that, I don't know how people that are going international get their test. They wouldn't be able to get it at what you're talking about. They have to go to get the PCR at Walgreens or somewhere.
Yeah, I can't answer that. This is just a community testing site. They're running out of locations to do it.
Okay.
Honestly, by the time this gets approved with the county and us, it may be.
There's no COVID.
Maybe no, on the downward side of that.
Okay.
If that's it, I would like to move into the state of the airport, which is something I get to do
Every year.
Every year. It's been exciting to do over the last few years. With COVID, we have weathered it fairly well. So let's go ahead and begin.
Yeah, I might mention this is the first time the board's seeing this too, so we're all going to be educated.
It's all exciting to everybody.
Yeah.
General aviation, we have 217 hangars, 13 in units. All are leased out. Annual revenue from that's just a little under $800,000. We currently have 72 on the waiting list. We're building 24. I think that'll take care of the majority of the wait list, but we have about an 18-month wait, which checking around the county or checking around the state is pretty normal, and we're on the lower side of it right now. 17 active aviation leases, 6 land leases for aviation use. Total revenue about $750,000. We are currently building 10 60 by 60s and 5 to 9 50 by 50s. Charlotte Tech launched this year, which has been a big boost to the community, aviation community. It's gotten a lot of interest, and you can see all the orange shirts in the photo. There are a lot of people going through the process of becoming A&P mechanics. If you figure 50% of those get their license and work in the industry, we're doing a lot to help the shortage of mechanics that the entire industry is currently experiencing. So we're excited about that. They're outgrowing their space, and that's why we have the legislative request in to keep their prices as low as possible so they can continue to operate this profitably for the school board and helping the entire aviation community. And we do have a private hangar under construction, the white and red building on the north ramp that is currently going up, and I think there will probably be a second building there shortly. Go to the next slide, please. So look at basically revenues for the FBO. Avgas was down. I think that is probably 2 or 3-fold. The prices have gone up, and we've been trying to keep our margins as low as possible so that we can encourage general aviation flying. But jet fuel sales, and these are exclusive of sales to Allegiant, we're up 20%, and if you look at the ramp, you can see why. We've had a lot more jet traffic and FBO services, and that's overnight fees, that's lav carts, that's ICE, stuff like that, was up significantly. And that's part of us preparing for our new facility. We're going to be offering a lot more services, being able to overnight indoors, just catering services and all the sorts that I think we're going to step up the game. But with the the addition of a few new employees this year, we're already starting that process. So next slide. Operations, total operations 87,000. Let me see how that compares to the year before. 79,000. So a significant increase. But like I always say, we're still a large general aviation airport with becoming a more significant amount of air carrier service. We have traditionally been in the 70 to 80,000 operations a year range for as long as I can remember, and you can just see the GA local and itinerant have stayed very steady as the air carrier has gone up, which is a good thing. I think that just shows that we're serving both clients fairly well. And our based aircraft still hangs right around 400, which is, if you look at nationally, there are a lot of airports with 2, 3, 4 based aircraft. So Florida, Arizona, California, that's where general aviation wants to be and operates the best. So we continue to benefit from our location. Next slide. So our non-aviation leases, they continue to be, they're stable. We hope to add to this next year with the addition of our spec building that we're currently looking at building. But 11 building leases, 11 land leases, 2% increase over the previous year, and that's just due to rent escalations. There's nobody new yet, but we have a lot of things in the hopper, and that's one of the things that our leasing manager and our attorney have been working on a lot. But about $640,000 in revenue on that. Next slide. Commercial air service, one of the things I'm happy to report is the airplane's going up again. 2020 was a rough year for the entire aviation industry. I think we're fortunate to see the small drop that we saw and the bounce back at 32% over 2020. I can tell you the graph is going to have to add another line to it for 2022. We will be over 1.8 million. I think we'll be close to 2 million, 1.9 to 2 million next year. And then with the addition of Sunseeker, they have already indicated that they're scheduling conferences for our slow period. So as you see the dips in July, June, July, August, September, I think we're going to fill some of those in.
Flatten it out.
Yeah. So next slide, please. So go through non-aviation revenue. These are revenues that are associated with the airline, and we can just go through all of them, but it's not terribly exciting. About 9.5 million, 9.6 million. It's an increase of 20%. I will note unleaded fuel sales. That's fuel that we sell to the rental car companies, and we did renegotiate that pricing with them. We dropped it after they hit a level from 50 cents to 25 cents over our cost, so that's why that went down. But you'll recall we built a fuel facility for them which cost about $100,000. We paid that off in the first 6 months, so we've been trying to just normalize that a little bit, but still make sure we get enough money to continue to operate the facility. But obviously the majority of our revenue is coming from these sources, specifically auto parking and car rentals. So the Leo award is just a TSA grant that we get. So that goes up and down based on traffic. Okay. Next slide. So car rental concessions, we left Hertz on the slide even though they didn't operate in 2021 with any significant amount, but Enterprise Alamo continues to be our number one. They do have the contract with Allegiant, but Avis and Budget are really picking up and starting to have a little more impact.
Then a question on the rent-a-cars. Are these franchised operations or are they corporate? Or are any of them
Yes.
related to each other like
So-
Enterprise and National?
Alamo, Enterprise, National are all the same company.
Okay.
We're a corporate facility, but they operate all three under one banner, as well as Avis, Budget, and Payless. Hertz, we signed an agreement with Hertz to become a franchise, but then they have come back as
As the National.
yeah, so we are. So next slide, please. So this is interesting. 5 years ago, it was completely opposite. Lyft didn't exist. Uber was very low, and the taxis were number one. But you can see how people are changing their habits, and the taxis has gone down considerably. One of the reasons we had to get an agreement with Uber and Lyft is to try and make sure we capture as much as possible with the loss of the taxi service and also the loss of rental cars and the loss of parking. People are starting to, use Uber to get to the airport. Uber has been expensive recently, so we've been benefiting on more parking because of that. But I think as we start to normalize and people start traveling more, and I think, you know, their prices will come back down. But just interesting, we watch that as an industry very closely whenever a new trend starts, and Uber and Lyft were definitely new a few years ago. Turo's another one that we're working with. We do have an agreement with them, one of the only, I think we were the third airport in Florida to sign an agreement with them, so we're happy that we at least got on that as quickly as possible. So, next slide. Auto parking, you just look at the years, 2021 by month. If we put this graph up with rental car income, they're anti-cyclical of each other. We rent more cars. When our parking is low, we park more when our rental cars are down. And we're working on coming up with a parking utilization graph so we can see how much of the parking lot's being used in a particular month. I get a lot of questions, why we don't have more parking, why we don't have more parking. But if you drive out there today, our parking lot, the red lot is almost empty. The orange lot is 99% empty. So, you know, it's just hard to plan parking when it's such a cyclical item. I will tell you that RSW ran out of parking, Sarasota ran out of parking, Pi ran out of parking, and Tampa was close. We did not. So with the utilization of our grass lots that are now run through our overflow lots or our orange lot, we were able to capture all the income from that, which we usually missed about 50%. So
How do you capture the revenue out of the grass lot?
they're actually running through the lot
through the
now.
gates?
Yeah, they run into the gates and out through the gates. And there's significant cost to start using that lot. We're adding more busing, we have to rent lighting. To you know, and the work we do to keep that lot from flooding, and so there's a lot of stuff. But to pave it at the cost of $3,000 a space for something you're going to use
Twice a year.
20 days a year is it's hard to justify. But again, parking is a big part of our revenue scheme. So, next item. So we like to just break down total revenue from in-plane passengers, and the 1368 is the number that we really look at closely. That is all of the revenue from the previous slides: parking, advertising, rental cars. That goes into that number, and our goal is to keep that slightly above $10 an enplanement, and we've done a good job with that without having to increase any cost. The next few are entitlements that we get per enplane passenger. That's money that we get back from the FAA. We're guaranteed that money as long as the legislation stays in place. And that's paid for through the ticket tax that the FAA collects on every ticket. PFCs, that's money the airline pays us directly that they collect. And then the CFC is the money we're collecting from rental car users. That's going into parking lots, into expanding the rental car facilities and stuff like that. So the net revenue per enplane passenger is hovering just under $20. And that's inclusive of all grants. And
Okay, and so the average airline-related expense that goes back to the airlines is $586 per passenger, which is pretty good considering where we came from.
yeah. So
That's the number the airlines look at, and it makes
Yeah.
people move around. I'll cite as an example, Allegiant was going into Cleveland, and their cost per passenger there, if I recall, was $14.95, which was too expensive for them, the way they operate. So they're shutting down Cleveland, they're moving to Akron, Canton, which isn't very far away, and their cost per passenger there is like $5, $10.
now that 586 is our cost. That's what it cost us to keep the air conditioning going, to maintain the building, to staff the building. It includes a percentage of all of staff costs.
Okay,
going
I got
in.
it a little bit backwards.
Yeah, so it's not what they're paying us, but it's what it's costing us. So you just basically net those two numbers together and come up with $1985. But even if you took the 586 off the 1368, you know, we're still at $8 plus per plane passenger if you exclude the CFCs, the PFCs, and the grants. So. All right, next slide. So our operating revenue, you know what, my goal is to always keep those two lines diverging slightly. We did not meet that goal last year, and that was thanks to the pandemic and the significant decrease we had in traffic. But this year we have recovered, and the graph is going back in the right direction on both expenses and revenues. I will say that there's going to be a significant expense increase over the next few years, and that's due to a multitude of things, but one, the minimum wage hikes that we're going to see in Florida. Wages are going to be $15 an hour, so we're going to have to adjust everybody up. We've already started that process so that we don't have a big spike in one year, but we're having to adjust wages just to attract people, and it's been more difficult. We've had more empty positions than I've ever seen in our operation, and it is tough when you look at the benefit package that we're offering to see empty positions. So we're working on it, and we'll continue to work on it, but I think you'll continue to see those graphs go in the same direction, up slightly in expenses and up a little bit higher in revenues every year. All right, and again, our operating margin's running about 27% over expenses. So look at cash, unrestricted cash, and I only say unrestricted because the other cash, the internal reserves, are our reserves. There's no restricted reserves based on any bonds or any loans, so the reserves you're seeing there are just internally. We put money aside for building maintenance, we put money aside for air conditioners, roofs, parking lot upgrades. So that internal reserves is just our money that we're setting aside, but you can see at the end of the year we were at about $31 million in reserves. We are going to have some expenses this year because of what we're building. We're building a lot of hangars that are all 100% us, but that's why you put money away in the bank. You recall when we did our financial plan back during the master plan, we were hoping that at some point we could have $10 million in unrestricted cash. We have done much better than that, and so I think it's time, and the board has approved us spending some of that money to improve some of the facilities and build new facilities. So we'll continue to do that this year, but we're tracking the cash very closely, and it continues to look good, and I think we'll be in a good position for the foreseeable future. So, next slide. So contributions from Allegiant, we always want to just show what they pay. It's about $733,000 a year. That includes rents, that includes the fuel farm improvements that they did and then gave to us, the 3 trucks that they give us, their ground service fuel, their hangar rent, and their turn fees. That ends up costing them about 30 cents a passenger. Next slide, please. So CIP Projects completed in '21. We did about $4.3 million last year. It includes expansion to the administration building, the build out of the remaining 4,000 square feet, the runway 422 design, the parking lot construction, the $3.3 million we spent on a little over 1,000 spaces, and fencing around the land we bought at the end of runway 22. So 52% of that was covered by grants and passenger fees. So see the rest of it came from our money. Next item, please. Some of the things we were able to do last year was the junction, which we didn't do, but we helped with the board's approval, with some funding for that they will be paying us back over the next 5 years. We did renovate the old restaurant and kind of have it for seating for our passengers who come in a little early and get food from our food trucks. Our food trucks have been extremely successful. We have more and more wanting to come here all the time. Like I said, we're working on the COVID vaccine. We had a COVID vaccine site, now we're working on a COVID testing site with the county, and then our Turo agreement, which again was one of the first 3 in the state. Next slide. So carryover projects, these are things that started last year or even the previous year. The GA8 runway 422 rehab, which is currently underway, wetland mitigation. The air center, the storage hangar, which will be the new hangar on the bottom right of the screen, that we should have pricing in April. The inline baggage system, the roadway network. So it's about $40 million in projects that are going forward right now. One of the reasons I think we need one more person in that department. So next project, next slide.
You missed the important thing.
Oh, go back.
86%.
Yeah, well, that is the important thing.
Yeah.
Using, being able to utilize grants and PFCs and CFCs as much as possible to fund projects. And so Allegiant agreed to, in our PFC application, to basically cover all the money remaining in the general aviation building. That's not grant eligible through the FAA. So the PFCs are covering our 50+% of that. So we've been very successful at getting grants and convincing an airline to fund general aviation. It is mutually beneficial because we can open up more space on the current ramp where they are. But this is, as soon as we're a little further along, I'd like to take the board out there after our meeting. This is just an amazing project. If you look at it from this picture, it doesn't seem as big as it is. It's 4 times as much parking space on the ramp. The building's 13,000 square feet. It's really a nice facility, and we're excited to get it open. I think the consumer is going to like it, and I think it's a big feather in our cap. But next slide. Just a little bit on that, and going forward projects, we are building a building to replace 207, which is going to be building 615. That's currently under construction or currently under design. The box hangars, roadway network improvements. These are all projects that are happening right now or will happen this year. $25.5 million worth of construction. Everything in yellow is that. And then we still have room, and if we have a need, to continue with some more T-hangars, some more box hangars. We are currently negotiating with the 2 potential private hangar sites that you see there, as well as CTC will be going in one of those new buildings if we're able to move forward with that grant that we're looking for from the state. Next slide. So milestones for the year. Allegiant started 6 new routes. Sun Country started service, and the air show returned. A very successful air show, and they were successful in getting the Thunderbirds for 2023. And that picture of me climbing out of a jet is a big success. I did not have any. I didn't throw up.
You got close.
Flying aerobat. I won't admit I got close, but I did not. I have never.
That anyone saw.
I have never enjoyed negative G's, so I got through it. So next slide. Marketing. We continue to do an amazing job with marketing, and I'm going to take all the credit for hiring Kaylee on that one, because I don't understand it, nor do I see much from especially the internet marketing, but obviously it is doing a good job for us, a good job for Sun Country and Allegiant. The photo spot has been a big success. We have a lot of people tagging us, and I don't know what that means, but we get tagged. The LED entrance sign, which is something it's been on my radar for about 5 years, just to give people some ideas of how to get in and where to go, has been a big success. We've had a lot of feedback, positive feedback on that. We will have another one at the FBO to just give people information about FBO services. The interactive destination map is a really nice thing that we're running that just gives people ideas about destinations as well as the airlines that fly there, what you can do when you get there. And then we did a lot of partnering with Charlotte County Tourism on digital marketing this year.
I'd like to add that this morning I received a compliment on occasion, I guess, Ray, you did a program to our neighbors to the north on the noise, that they might be affected with the runway change, and they're very pleased with the presentation by our people, and which is always good to hear those outreach programs that we do in advance of that.
Yeah, we wanted, and we've been, talking.
What's the name of that subdivision? I can't remember. What's the name of the
Water's Edge.
Water's Edge. That's right off the edge of
the other end down here.
Right.
And we've been reaching out to those for about a year now, just to let them know
They
that
work good.
the traffic is going to change. We're working with the airlines and the FAA to skirt some areas in South County where we're getting some bird activity with our new approaches, but we're doing really well with that, and we have not received a significant number of complaints with the new patterns, which will be around for about a year. Okay. So we have some employee highlights. No, I'm fine, thank you, Amy. We are currently at 52 full-time, 33 part-time, 11 seasonal, so 96 total employees. If you recall, a few years ago, that number was significantly higher in part-time than in full-time, but that is just part of the times. We're seeing that part-time employment is not as beneficial to people anymore. We used to get a lot of people that did not want to work full-time. So last year we had 38 full-time and 43 part-time. This year it's flipped, 52 full-time, 33 part-time. That's part of the increase in employment cost, obviously. Full-time people get full benefits, state retirement benefits, medical benefits, so there's a significant increase in employee cost, even though the hours worked ends up being about the same. But we did add Mr. Duncan, who's been a great replacement for Mr. Mallard. When I found out that he was going to be available, we started talking the next day, and it's been a great staff member, and I think moving forward he's going to bring a lot to the table. And then we added a new manager, Darren Webb, GM for the Air Center. He's started now. He's really changing the way we process and handle general aviation. I think we're going to step up that game a lot, and we wanted to make sure that when we move into this first-class facility that we have all of those practices in place. So we're real excited with the way things are looking and moving forward. And I think that is it, unless there's any questions.
Any questions or comments by board members? I might make one comment. These are great presentations for those of us that have the opportunity to provide being a speaker at somebody at like the Kiwanis or the Rotary and all that. And so I would think you guys will put together a nice portable package that we can take with us.
Kaylee can not only give you this, but also customize it to whoever you're speaking to, take some things out.
It's a good tool.
And then we will also work on a web-based version of this that kind of cleans it up for the web and people can look through it.
I had two questions recently. One is about coming off the aircraft and not having a covered, whatever you call it, awning or whatever, especially when it's raining here in the summer. And that has been asked of me many, many times, especially if I wear my shirt out in the supermarket.
Don't wear your shirt.
I'm not going to wear it anymore, no. And I just wondered, is there any plan to do that, or who would be responsible for that fee or charge?
Well,
or
and
is
that's
that dangerous?
That's so a canopy on our existing ramps isn't possible because we have aluminum ramps. The canopies can only be used on the steel ramps, which are more expensive and heavier. Jet bridges are possible, but they're about $1.1 million a piece.
Wow.
And would require modifications to the building to ramp up to them. Possible. Definitely, and I say this every day when I speak and I get that question, if Delta, Southwest, anybody calls me and says, we'll put 8 flights a day in if you build a jet bridge, we'll build a jet bridge. Allegiant does not want them.
No.
They fought using them at Pi for as long as possible. And if you look at our neighbor to the north who is growing significantly with the addition of Southwest, Allegiant growing, and Sarasota, they're now building their expansion to their terminal as a ground boarding facility because that is really what the ultra low cost carrier wants.
Correct. Have you ever looked in response to Mrs. Coppola? They used to make these snaky things, and I don't think they were any good. You know,
they're very hot. And they're very temperamental when it comes to use. And
getting them out.
You know, when we have, this Friday, we're looking at another wind event. You know, we get winds 30, 40, 50 miles an hour on the ramp a lot.
Blow them away.
And I think they could become dangerous out there. But yeah, we've looked at them. It is something that's crossed our minds.
Historically, they haven't been, my experience, they haven't been very good. The problem with loading bridges, is there enough room to put one on the existing building without pushing the aircraft into the grass?
We could. Yeah. It could happen. We made sure in gates 1 and 2 that it was possible.
I know what you're saying about Allegiant. I had the same problem with them in Springfield when we built the new building, and they don't want to use the loading bridge. And I said, it was because they have to pay for them usually. You know, I said, well, how are you going to get them in the building, your passengers? So that worked out.
They push back on loading bridges at every airport
they
go
do.
to. So, I would, like I said, I will build them when an airline comes to us and says we want them. If we built 2 now, Allegiant would avoid those 2 gates like the plague.
Right, and you need the gates.
Yeah, and we need gates. We're pushing 10 aircraft out every morning out of the 7 gates that we currently have. So.
Wow.
Okay, good report.
All right, thank
Any
you.
other further? Okay.
Very good report.
All right, we'll move on to old business, and we're not having any old business. New business. We have a request that came from both me and Mr. Parrish on looking at changing our meetings, 4 of our meetings. There's, if you look on your agenda page on the yellow sheet, proposed changes. And in order to do that, we would have to have the concurrence of the board members to move the meeting. Move the February meeting, February 1st meeting, 17th meeting to February 24th. March, we have scheduled no meeting historically. April 21 to April 7, May 19th to May 26th, and June 16th to June 23rd.
I have no problems.
No problems. Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Wait a minute, Mrs. Oliver, you okay with that? Hello?
Sorry, 13 minutes of unmute. Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, great. I'll entertain a motion to move the meetings.
Mr. Chairman, move that the board move to adopt the new meeting dates for February 24th, April 7th, May 26th, and June 23rd,
And I second that.
as presented.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, hearing none, motion carried.
We will go ahead and make sure that that gets advertised as changes, and we'll send emails out to everyone on the list, both now and when the meetings should have been, and then when the meetings will be. So there shouldn't be anybody here on the old meeting dates, but someone will show up.
Okay, the next item, Mr. Parrish, the grant agreement with FODT.
Yeah, this is a grant that just kind of changes some money from one pot to another for the 1533 rehab. I don't think there's any real dollar changes. It's just moving it from the extension to or from the main rehab to the extension project. So I would request that the board approve the PTGA as well as the resolution.
Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to amend, I guess it's amendment to the public transportation grant agreement and the resolution for runway 1533, which both go hand in hand.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve Resolution 2022-01 and also allow our CEO to execute the FDOT grant amendment number 4 as presented.
Mr. Chair, I second that.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none, motion carried unanimously. Little Pine Island mitigation bank agreement.
As part of our wetland mitigation program, we have to buy credits in the Little Pine Island Mitigation Bank. When we did our master plan and when we did our design, we went ahead and got with them, got pricing, so this has been part of the project all along. It's funded by the grant, but we need to go ahead and approve us purchasing those credits. 2.8 acres of freshwater herbaceous credits for Phase 2 wetland project for the amount of $462,000, which makes me think we ought to be in the wetland mitigation credit.
Yeah, we don't have any extra land we can.
We can't create wetlands on our land, but we have thought about buying some land and doing this.
You might explain for those that are watching and listening to us what we're really doing and why this is so expensive.
So what somebody has gone out and this Little Pine Island project, they went out and took former farmland that was at one point wetlands, converted it back to wetlands, and it is a long process. It has a lot of money involved in monitoring it through the years. And then there's uplands, and these are freshwater herbaceous, which is one of the most expensive wetlands. And you know, they have to create the wetland, they have to monitor the wetland, they have to maintain the wetland. And so then we buy those credits so that we can then take away the wetlands on our site. So we buy created wetlands.
Basically, we're eliminating the ponds on the airport, which...
We're eliminating, and this one's eliminating 2 very active wet areas on the airport that have been bird attractants in the past.
That are these that you...
Yeah.
So the chair will entertain a purchase agreement to buy the Little Pine Island mitigation bank credits in the amount of, what is it, $420,000? Is that what it is?
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve and allow our CEO to execute the Little Pine Island Mitigation Bank Agreement as presented.
I second that
We have a
motion.
motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Same sign, no. Motion carried.
The next item is the purchase of 2 lighted X's. They're the runway closure markers that we use. I don't think, except for Ms. Coppola, anyone was on the board the last time we bought these. We bought a pair in 2001 as part of a project for $1533, and I did buy 2 used ones a couple of years ago just to have some backups. These are the newest. They have battery backups. They use considerably less fuel, but we budgeted $40,000. We did not budget shipping costs going up as much as they have. So that is the cost of the X's have gone up slightly, but shipping has gone up significantly. So we're asking the board approve $55,000 not to exceed. I think it'll be closer to 50, but just want to make sure we can get them here.
Okay, Chair will entertain the purchase of 2 new lighted X's in the amount not to exceed $55,000.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the purchase of 2 lighted X's with a purchase price not to exceed $55,000 as presented.
Need a second.
Second that?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Same
Aye.
side, no? Motion carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we're going on, we have, as stated in the beginning of the meeting, we have an additional agenda item, which is 13E. Has to deal with taxiway D reconstruction, which is somewhat of a surprise.
It is a surprise, and that the preliminary work that we did out there that looked at the depth of the lime rock and the depth of asphalt didn't indicate that this was going to be necessarily a reconstruction project, but only a rehab project. But so we've looked closer, and the engineers have done a lot of research with geotechs. The base material, that the majority of it is from the 40s and 50s, is failing and will probably continue to fail. And the only way to fix that, well, there are 2 ways. We could increase the amount of asphalt to the point where the base is less stressed, but that would affect drainage, that would affect connections to the surrounding taxiways and ramps, so that really is not a solution. So we met with the FAA. We did present them both solutions, a full reconstruct and a significant overlay. The FAA has agreed that we should go with this option, which is a reconstruction. This money is additional funding needed by the engineers to complete the scope. It is about a $2.6 million increase in construction cost, which the FAA is going to cover at 90%. So.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve a taxiway D reconstruction project amendment to the Kimberly Horn Engineering Agreement in the amount of $73,711.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the increase in the engineering fees by Kimley Horn in the amount of $73,711, and also to allow our CEO to execute the agreement amendment as presented.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the amendment with Kimberly Horn as presented, say aye.
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 Motion carried. Okay,
That is all I have on the agenda.
well, that was plenty. So, moving on to commissioners. I'm glad I'm entertaining you, Mr. Clark.
Just like the spontaneity.
Okay, we're on to commissioners' comments, and I'd like to start with Commissioner Oliver. She's still hanging on the phone, I hope. Any comments?
Today, your safety, hopefully today, healthy, and we're gonna make so much. Thank you so much for all of your hard work at this airport. You've been such an amazing decision. I yield.
Okay, you broke up a little bit. I think we got most of it. Paul?
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. State of the Airport presentation was very good. And Amy, thank you for all your work and hard work and dedication, and you're going to be missed. Thank you.
Mr. Hurston?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see everybody and to listen to Commissioner Oliver. Good to see our engineering firms. It's always good to see you guys. We have some of the greatest firms, I think, in the region working for us. I'm surprised that that mitigation agreement is assignable, which amazes me. I think there might be a market there. If you think about that, Hugh Dinkler and Ian Vincent tells me those fees are just going up so fast. It's as much as $400,000 on the East Coast.
So we did look at doing a combination project with the DOT on the south side of the web as part of the FAA or the DOT's expansion of I-75, and it just didn't work out timing-wise for them or us. But it is something I think that as you know, we progress, that maybe, you know, us, RSW, or some other airports get together and build our own mitigation bank and some.
Would make sense.
What do we have in the future that we gotta be
Well,
looking
the
at?
entire east side of the
Yeah,
airport.
that's right, yeah.
You know, as we grow into that area, there's a potential that we will need considerable amounts of mitigation.
Okay, Mrs. Coppola.
Just thank everybody for coming. It was an excellent meeting. Boy, you guys are really working hard in that office. And we're just going hammers a heck into the future, and I thank you all for your hard work, and thank everybody for coming. Great meeting.
Okay, I'd like to offer my personal thanks to Amy.
Oh, Amy, well, I told her earlier.
She's taking care of us, but I'm sure her replacement,
Yeah.
Kelly, will do a good job. We do have the whip available, so with that, any comments from those here in attendance? I'd open it up if you're interested about saying something. Steve and I is gone, so we don't have to go through that. That's okay. Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Carol, are you coming by to talk about the paper?
Lisa said she had something else she needed to do, so